Now, in this section here, we'll be able to, most importantly, we'll be able to see the floor plans that you guys have available at your property. And we can see if we allow it, we can see the availability by floor plan. Now, quick question for you guys. I don't see the application link on the website. Where are you guys handling applications, or how do you take those applications?
Right now, they're just being copied applications that we're actually taking here.
Okay.
When it comes to that, I will have to touch base with Tracy on that
Okay.
as far as actually being able to submit the application online.
Okay. Yeah, I just asked because I didn't see the apply link here, and so I wasn't sure if you guys were just taking those maybe by hand in the office, or how that was going to work. Tracy, do you know if these are going to be maybe enabled at some point in the future? I think she might have stepped out for just a sec. Okay, so that's totally fine. Now, there's going to be other things that we can do here on the prospect portal. Primarily, the most important thing is the application itself, but we'll be able to see photos. Any marketing images that have been uploaded here for the property, we'll be able to see those here. And this is all controlled and set up within Entrada in the setup section for the property. So we'll pull in all of these images here. Now, we'll also be able to see any of the amenities that are set up in Entrada for the community. We'll be able to show community amenities as well as apartment-specific amenities in that section. We'll give your prospects directions to the property using the Google Maps API here. We'll be able to pull in this information and see what's nearby. If maybe we're wondering if there's schools in the area, restaurants, things like that, entertainment, we can go ahead and see that there. There's going to be a quick link for residents to log in, contact the property, or submit a maintenance request. And then anybody is going to be able to reach out to the property by clicking on that contact button, and they can submit their message in this section. Now, when they enter in this information here, as soon as we click submit, that is going to create a guest card within Entrada for you guys, and it's going to allow you to see that traffic there within the system. So let me move away. I'm going to close out your actual property website, and we'll just pull up my test account, and we'll work off of that. So let me pull up mine. Here, I'll go to the floor plans, and I'll contact the property, and I will submit my guest card. So let's go ahead and just send one in here real quick. Let's do email address. And as soon as I come down here to the bottom and I submit this, we're going to get at the property, you as a property manager or the leasing agent will get an email notification letting you know that a guest card was submitted. Have you guys been getting those emails?
I haven't. Can you
Okay.
just for a guest card on? No, we haven't.
You haven't? Okay. So we'll need to take a look and see who is set up to get those notifications, but that's going to trigger to whoever's already set up an email letting you know that the guest card was submitted. Now, when that guest card is created in Entrada, once we get the email, we'll be able to go into the system. We can log in, and from the dashboard, we're going to be able to start managing that lead within the system. So under this dashboard section, have you guys done a whole lot within Entrada, or do you guys log in pretty regularly?
Gio, they just got their logins, I think, after we got the property fully set up.
Okay.
But the property manager, she's familiar with it, and then, of
Okay.
course, I am. But
Perfect.
Kirsten and Natasha, they just got their login, so, take them through everything.
Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do then is as soon as this guest card comes in, again, we'll get the email notification, but we'll be able to go into the dashboard and we'll be able to start managing this lead here within the system. Now, let me zoom in just a little bit, but we'll be able to come in from the dashboard and go to the leads tab. and we're gonna see all of our new guest cards within this section. Now, you'll notice under the lead section, we have this number here listed. That just lets us know that there's 81 action items that fall under the leads tab that we need to complete. So if when you're logging in there, when you start getting, now that you have your logins, when you start going in every single day, I would recommend coming in here, especially with this leads tab, and making sure that this number that's listed here is as close to 0 or if possible at 0. That way you know that you're completing all of the action items that you need to as far as managing and following up with your leads. Now, within the leads tab, you'll notice we'll have some different sub tabs that we can look at in this section. And we're going to work from left to right. I'll just kind of explain what these do. The first tab in this section is going to be the Assign Agents tab. Now, when a new guest card comes in, it's going to be unassigned, which means that there's technically no one responsible for that specific guest card. Nobody has claimed it. If you guys are going in and I don't know if you're going to allow permissions wise for these guys to assign their own guest cards and claim them, or if that's something that maybe the property manager is going to do. But you can come in here, find any of those leads, and on the right hand side, we're going to be able to click on the assign button, and I can now assign it to myself or assign it to a different person if I'd like to. Now, I'll select that leasing agent and click assign, and it's going to clear out that person from that list. So you can come in here, assign every guest card out or claim it for yourself and make sure that there's somebody responsible for that specific guest card. Now, the next thing that we'll take a look at is going to be the never contacted section and then the follow-up tab. In this never contacted section, what you'll see is all of the leads for your apartment community that are in the leasing process that nobody has ever reached out to are going to fall under this sub tab. Normally in this section, as long as we're completing our follow-up under the follow-up tab, this never contacted section should stay pretty close to 0. You might not see a whole lot of leads in here as long as we're completing the follow-up. So if you're coming in regularly and making sure that you're completing all of your follow-up, I don't foresee any problems with having a big old list here in the never contacted section. But just keep that in mind. Anybody that falls in this section is going to be someone that nobody has ever reached out to. Now, you'll be able to see the status of that person in that status column. We'll see people in here, whether they're a new guest card, so guest card complete, whether they've started the application. We'll be able to see those who have completed the app. It doesn't matter what step in the leasing process they're in. If they have never been reached out to, they're going to show up here in this section. And what you can do is if you see somebody in here, on the very far right hand side, we'll be able to click on that contact button, and we'll see a couple different options here in this section. So what we'll go ahead and do is, real quick, I'm going to go ahead and just mute everybody for now, just because I'm getting some background noise. But if I ask a question, I'll go ahead and unmute you guys so you guys can answer back. But we can see in this contact dropdown, we'll be able to see the ability to send an email. We can enter any incoming or outgoing calls. We can enter an on-site visit as well. So you can come in here and clear that out as well. Hey, Kirsten, you said you had a question.
Yes. The question that I have is, all the contacts that we're showing right now in Entrada, it has to do because since they're not being merged completely from all the information that we have right now is through eSite, and that's pretty much where we're putting in our guest cards since we are not getting any leads or anything from Entrada right now. So I can go in and I can make notations that so that way we can get pretty much to close to 0 when it comes to the leads here on Entrada.
Correct.
But looking forward, one of the things that we need to do is that we need to go ahead and enable the application and the leads as well, where we're actually getting emails for any type of lead that's actually coming through Entrada.
Right. We'll want to make sure that that is enabled as far as the application goes so that everything comes through Entrada. But I'll be honest with you, so you guys being integrated, and even at this point in time, any traffic that walks into the office, I would recommend that we enter in that traffic within Entrata first and let it integrate into AMSI. So I know that you guys are doing it in eSite right now, and letting it kind of reverse integrate into our system. But I would recommend doing it now from within Entrata. And I'll show you guys how to do that here in just a sec, okay?
Yeah, Gio, that's what we're going to do. Once
Okay,
the training is complete, we'll lead from Entrata for all leasing functions.
perfect.
It's just that the girls hadn't had the proper training, so we've just been using AMSI. But from this point forward, we will lead from Entrata.
Perfect. That's what I recommend. So I'm glad that you guys are doing that. But yeah, so we'll do that. And then we'll also, Tracy, I actually asked earlier, I think you might have stepped away for a minute, but the application, as far as the online application goes, it's not enabled at this point in time. Do you know when you guys are going to turn that on?
We want to start that probably immediately. We want to make sure that the settings and all of those things are correct.
Okay.
And I think they are. So do you want to, is there some way you and maybe me and Alicia can check it to make sure it's ready to go? And once it's ready, we can roll it out.
Yes. So I'll reach out to Alicia after this call, and I'll
Okay.
make sure and I'll double check with her and let her know if that application is good to go as far as the settings go. If it is, we'll go ahead and kick that on for you guys, okay?
Okay, that'll be
All
great.
right, perfect, guys. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look then at one of the other sections here in this leads tab that's going to be extremely important, and that's going to be the follow-up tab. Now, the follow-up section, as I mentioned, is going to allow you to reach out to these leads and make sure that we're conducting the follow-up based on the rules and the policies that have been set up within Entrata for your apartment community. Now, you'll see leads in here, not just new guest cards. You're going to see people in this list that are in various steps of the leasing process, kind of like we saw with Never Contacted. There's going to be a couple different things, though, that trigger somebody to jump onto or appear on the dashboard. Now, you'll see here in this section, we have a reason for follow-up. Now, there is going to be things like new lead follow-up. So just any new guest card that is entered or comes in from the prospect portal, that's going to trigger a follow-up. One of the other things that could show up here, for example, I have Marco is one of my leads. If he starts the application and it's been maybe 1 or 2 days since he started the application, hasn't completed it, we can trigger follow-up to follow up with that person and see if maybe they're stuck on some portion of the application. Maybe they needed our assistance, whatever that may be. Now, again, what drives this is what we call the lead communication schedule. And I actually want to take a look at your schedule to get a better idea and an understanding of what's going to trigger people to show up on the dashboard at Bella Vista. So I'm going to go to the setup section of this of the lead communication schedule. You won't, as far as at the property level, won't necessarily have the ability to edit this out, but I want to show you what is going to drive some of the things that show up or the leads that show up on that dashboard. Now it looks like for lead scheduling, we have at this point in time, we have for new leads that come in to Entrata, we are now having that an immediate follow-up be scheduled if it comes from Entrata or the site tablet or from Prospect Portal. So you guys have that now. Tracy, do you guys normally, would you want somebody to be followed up with maybe 2 or 3 days after the guest card is submitted, maybe 5 days after? I'm not saying that is set up for Bella Vista at this point in time, but I'm wondering if maybe that's something that you guys wanted.
Yes, we do need some type of follow-up. We'll probably do immediately when it comes to the portal or Entrata, the site tablet, and then 2 days later.
Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to make a note of that here, and I will reach back out to you after this call, and we'll get those notes. We'll get something laid out as far as what it is that you're going to want, and then I can reach out to Alicia and she can make those changes, okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Let me go ahead and make some notes really quick. Okay, So that schedule again is what's going to drive the follow-up, and it's going to be like I mentioned, not just for new guest cards, but there's going to be different sections in here that are going to allow us to trigger follow-up on, you know, based on a specific customizable time frame. So it looks like, for example, with applications, we'll have somebody show up on the dashboard 1 day after the application started and 5 days after the application is started and not complete. Again, so that we can make sure that they don't have any questions and things like that. So just keep that in mind. If you ever need to make any changes to it, Tracy, or if you guys are seeing that maybe something is not working out as well as you thought, we can maybe make that change and update the lead communication schedule. But I kind of wanted to give you some background as to what drives the follow-up here. Now,
Okay.
when somebody appears in this section, we're going to be able to, just like we did with Never Contacted, I can click on the contact button and I'll be able to send an email to that person or record various other follow-up types. Now you'll notice when I select the email option, I can enter in a subject for this email, maybe just a quick thank you for your interest if they're a new guest card. And then I can start to type out my my response here in the body of this section. So you're going to have some options there as far as that goes. You can email a person individually. If maybe we had, for example, multiple people on the dashboard that were new guest cards, then we have the ability to email them in bulk. One thing to keep in mind, though, while we're doing this is that you're going to have access to what are called quick responses in Entrata, and that allows the property management company to create templated responses that they would like the site staff to use so that we can make the follow-up process a little bit easier and a little bit quicker for those leasing agents. So you'll notice in this responses dropdown, I added my subject, but in the responses, I can come in and say, this is my first contact with this person. I'm going to insert in that quick response, and we're going to automatically populate the response that has been set up at the company level. So here's my response. As a leasing agent, you know, my follow-up is going to be pretty quick. I can now just send off this email, and that person is going to fall off of my follow-up, and the number of follow-up is going to update in this section. So there's some options there with those quick responses. Now, I did one person follow-up. I can select multiple people in this list. For example, all of my new leads, and I can do the exact same thing, right? I can go ahead and now come up to the top and click on the contact dropdown. I can send an email, and it's going to pull in all 3 new leads that I show in this section, and I can now follow up with all of them, maybe use one of those quick responses, one of those templated responses, and I can knock out 3 follow-up with 1 email. So it's going to be pretty good, pretty easy to use here in this section. Now,
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
The quick responses, do I need to set them up, or do you have some generic ones that we'll have there already?
So you guys need to set them up. We allow you to customize those. So you would have to do the setup, and just to kind of show you where that would be, if you go to the Setup tab and Company section, under the Communication tab, you'll be able to see this Quick Responses section. If you click on Quick Responses, you can add all of the quick responses that you would like in this section.
Okay.
Okay. So that once it's created here, it'll show up in that drop down, and your property level staff will be able to start using those when they follow up with people.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at some other things here in this section. You've probably noticed as we've been kind of going through these tabs that we have the ability to cancel out leads. Now, if you see a lead on here, it's maybe somebody. A lot of times, people will submit fake names. It's going to be a bad lead. The name's not real. You can tell. Then we can come in here, and we can find that lead that we want to cancel out. And when I do so, we'll be able to just come in here and cancel that lead out. When you do, it's going to ask you a reason for canceling the lead, and we'll be able to see a couple different reasons here in this section. Yours are probably going to be different than mine. I've gone in and updated or added additional ones to my specific list, but you'll be able to select the reason for canceling and then cancel that lead out to replace the or to update the dashboard, and you'll notice that the follow-up there is going to update as well. So just keep that in mind. You have the option to do that. Now, we've been talking about leads that have been coming into Entrata, whether they come in from the prospect portal. Now, hey, you know what? Actually, I just got a question really quick from Kristen, and she's wondering if on the emails, when we email multiple people at a time, can the residents or the prospects see that you are emailing more than one person? And the answer to that question is no. They will only see themselves in the recipients list. Everybody else is blind copied, so they're not going to see everybody else that was included. Now, we've been talking about leads that are coming in through the prospect portal, but within Entrata in the dashboard, you're going to have some quick links that are going to allow you to create a lead and add them into the system, which is what we're moving towards once we're done with this training. Now, on the right-hand side here, you'll see that we have a quick link to create a lead. All I need to do is click on the link there. I'm going to start to fill in some of these required fields, and we'll take a look at what that looks like. So let's go ahead and add a new lead in this section here. We'll add the required field, which is a phone number. I'm going to come over here to my property dropdown, and I'm going to select a property. I have permissions to a couple different ones, but for you guys, this is going to be automatically selected to just the property Bella Vista that you're assigned to. And then we're going to see some additional required fields. So I'm going to come in here, and I require, for my property at least, to assign an agent to this guest card. I'll select the lead source as well, which I'll grab from the person that came into the office, maybe filled out a paper guest card or is giving me this information as I'm sitting at the computer. And we'll go ahead and enter in the email. And we'll come down and enter in the email again, since we need to enter it twice to verify that it's correct. Now we're going to select the contact method. So this person was an on-site visit. They came into the property. And then we're going to have two options down here in the bottom right. You're going to see the ability to save this lead. We also have the ability to start the application. We're going to just create the guest card. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to save the lead. And if we wanted to save the lead so that it creates the guest card, but immediately put this person at an application started status, maybe they filled in the application in person and now I'm just going to transfer that data into Entrata, then we can start the application as well. We can always get to this step if all we do is create the guest card, so you don't need to do that right away. Let's create just the guest card, so we're going to do save lead. And that guest card is going to be created for us, and it's going to be immediately opened up here within Entrata. Now, within the lead profile, you're going to have a couple options within the profile itself to kind of follow up and manage this lead here within the system. You'll notice that when we open up the guest card, it's going to give us a status of guest card completed. That's the status for all new leads that come into Entrata from the prospect portal, or leads that I create myself within the system. We're going to show you the lead timeline across the top that's going to allow you to perform different actions with this lead. It will also give you a step-by-step of what step in the process this person is currently in. We're in step number 1, we're in the guest card stage, so that's what you're going to see here in this section. Now we have a couple things that we can do now that we have a guest card opened up. And if we're in step number 1, we're going to tell you what's next with that lead. And at this point, if it's just a guest card, we're going to want to send an invitation to the email address that is listed for that person, so that they can, hopefully, once we have the application enabled, so that they can apply online. All we're going to do is we're going to click on send invitation. We'll select Mackenzie from that list, and we'll click send. And that's going to send an invitation email to the email address that we have on file. That's going to give Mackenzie just a quick link that she can click on to create an account for the prospect portal and start the application process. So she'll be able to go on there, start her online application, hopefully complete it online, and then we can continue with the leasing process on our end as Entrata users. Now we'll send the invite her way. We'll have her hopefully, complete the online application, but that's what we'll be able to do here in this first step. If we had Mackenzie come in after she created a guest card online, or maybe I took her information from her and I created the guest card myself in the office, we have another way to start this application, and that's going to be the manual way. So let's say Mackenzie, again, she came in, we created the guest card, and she left maybe the application with us, right? So she's like, I'm just going to do this on paper. I'll bring it back when I'm done. That's going to be something that probably comes up here, even though we're going to have the online application enabled. Well, we hope that most of these people are doing it online. There's going to be those that still do it in person. Now, when she brings back that application and I have the information with me, what I can do is, instead of send invitation, I can click on the little drop down, and it's going to give me the option to start the application, just like we saw previously when we created the lead. I'll start the app, and it's going to change the status of Mackenzie to an application started status. You'll now see the application details listed, and I'll be able to see Mackenzie's name in there. Now, if I open up her profile, we'll be able to see this pop-up window come up with all of the application steps, and I'll be able to go in through each of these steps on the application, and we'll be able to start filling in all of the information for Mackenzie so that we can complete the application for her manually. This is going to mirror the online application. We're going to ask all the same questions so that we can go in here and fill in the application for her. Now, I know that you guys probably haven't seen the online application itself. I want to give you a quick rundown of what that's going to look like. So let me go ahead and just tweak this here a little bit so that it'll act as if Mackenzie had created an account online, and I'll show you what that looks like here. Give me just a second. Okay, so we'll say that we got the invitation that we sent earlier. We created an account, and we're going to see the application process from within the prospect portal. So you'll notice we're going to log in. It's going to show us that we're at application started, and we're going to return to complete the application. Now, within this section here, we're going to be able to see, again, those same steps that we were seeing when we were doing the manual application. We'll be able to see them across the top, and we'll be able to come in here now, and we can select a specific apartment if there's one that's available and I want to apply directly to that one. So I'll select my apartment, and I will also select from the lease terms that are available for this property. I'll select a 12-month lease term. I'll click Save and Continue, and it's going to take me to the last and final step. Or it's going to take me to the next step, I apologize. Now from here though, we'll be able to see the option step, and we're going to be able to see some additional options. Now, Tracy, I got a question for you concerning this specific piece. Are you guys, or have you set up through Entrata rentable items, things like maybe covered parking, garage, storage, things like that?
I don't think we have.
Okay, so that's a possibility, and we can add that here we can add that within Entrata, as under your property, and your leads or your applicants will be able to see that online, and they'll be able to come in here and add that to their application. We'll attach rates. So we'll attach rates to these items so that when one is selected, it's going to update the rental amount automatically so that they know how much they're going to be paying per month. So let's go ahead and do that. If I add one, you'll see it'll update my per month total automatically. I can add additional options at this point. The other thing that we'll be able to add is if we have pets, I can come in here in this drop down, and I can select to add 1 pet, 2 pets. I show 5 pets in this drop down, but this is just a test account. Normally, this is going to follow your pet policy, so we'll only see the 2, maybe 2 pets max, or maybe 1 pet max, depending on what it is that you guys allow. So we'll be able to add pets as well from this section. Now, I'm going to take off this covered parking here. I'll delete it, but I just wanted to show you how you can add that there in that section, and it's going to update this automatically. So right now, I show that we have Alpha Apartments, an Alpha Apartments application for apartment 157. $1,100 per month is what I'll be paying unless I add any additional rentable items for a 12-month lease term, and it's going to give me a breakdown of what the rent amount is going to be. I'll save and continue. We'll jump to the next step, and we'll kind of continue this application here. Now, basic info, it's going to pull in all of the information that we already got off of the guest card. Let's take a look. Kirsten. Okay. Hey, Tracy, can you still hear me?
I can.
Okay.
I can.
I think Kirsten and them are having some problems with hearing me. Let me take a look. Let me just message her through this chat function here. I think they're having connection issues.
Okay, Gio, I asked them to hang up and dial back in.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Alrighty. Yes, I think they said that it made a weird noise and then it stopped, and I think I heard that too. It sounded like somebody else was talking actually on the line.
Yeah, that AT&T is having issues over there in that area. Lines are crossing, and they're having some trouble on the lines out there. So.
Okay.
No
worries. We'll give them a chance to call back in, and
Okay.
All right. So we'll stand by for just a minute.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Gio, while we wait, can you make sure that the email address that you guys have on file for all the email notifications is the property email address?
Yeah. Let's take a look. So I have, for example, let me pull up your account here, and we have set up properties, and we'll go to Bella Vista.
Okay.
And in communication and notification recipients, we have one address in there, D Turnbow at S2.
Yeah, that one needs to be deleted.
Okay. So this is what, hey, you know what, Tracy? Are you logged in right now to your account?
I can log in.
Yeah, can I have you log in? And I'll walk you through how to do that. I prefer if you made the change.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Hey, Kristen, are you guys back?
Yes, we're back in.
Okay, perfect. I know what you're talking about. I heard the weird noise. It sounded like somebody else was talking. I didn't recognize who it was. It was like some guy. And then you guys cut out, so that's kind of strange.
Yeah, I don't know.
While you guys were jumping on, I'm showing Tracy where to make the change as far as the notifications go to the property. So Tracy, if you're logging in there, when you're logged in, I'll have you go to Setup Properties, and you're gonna open up Bella Vista, okay?
I'm there.
Okay, and then Communication Notification Recipients, and
Got it.
I'm gonna have you come in and edit out this first recipient. So you said that D Turnbow needs to be taken out. So go ahead and
Yes.
click on the pencil and then just click delete.
Okay.
Okay, and then once that's done, let me see if it's not showing me that it's been deleted.
Oh, hold on.
Oh.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, perfect. And then we're gonna add a new recipient, and
Okay.
this one is going to be then the property at the email address for the property. So go ahead and add their email address in there.
Okay. And
then
save?
Well,
Oh,
we need to select the emails that they're gonna want. I feel like we're gonna want to give them pretty much everything, honestly.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I got them all checked, and then click save.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect. So I see that Bella Vista is now set up with those permissions. Now this email address, I see ILS suspended property notification. I'm gonna go in. Do you want me to just delete that completely?
Yeah, that's what I want, because that she no longer works for the company at all.
Okay, perfect. So she's gone. There we go. That's what we want. So we have Bella Vista at Premier PM. tx.com, and they're going to get all of the leasing, resident, any payment messages, things like that, okay?
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So let's go back into the application here. We'll wrap this, we'll try to finish this application up here pretty quick.
I
But
had a question about the application. Whenever y'all were adding stuff like the garages and whatnot, and it went on here and added it to your per month, are y'all going to be adding the valet, trash, and pest control to that automatically, or?
so it depends on, and I'm not 100% sure how the rates were set up initially. I don't know if that rent amount includes the sewer, water, trash, or if that's a fee that gets charged separately. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to
Okay.
double check, and I can get back to you. Okay.
Gio, the way we have it set up, I think it's just rent amounts, and then
Yeah.
we'll talk about it once we finish.
Okay. Perfect.
Because
So
we have another property that has the same, and we use that we used to have, and what I had to do was go in AMSI and add it as like kind of like a rentable item to each unit, so then it would carry over to Entrada. So we'll discuss it on the flip side.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go ahead and continue then with this one. I was saying here with the personal info, we'll pull in a lot of this information from the guest card already. We'll have things like the birthday, and then we'll ask for things like the social security number so that we can conduct the screening. Now we'll save and continue, and it'll take us to the next step, which is going to be the additional info step. And in this section, we'll be able to ask for the current things like the current address, so where they're currently living at. We'll be able to enter in all of this info in here. Now, keep in mind, as we're going through this application, all of these fields that we're looking at are customizable. So if you want to require the field, if you want to make it not required, if you want to hide it from the application, you have the option to do so. If it's something that you don't need, maybe it's asking for information that you don't want, we can always disable those fields. Now we'll save and continue here, and it'll take us to the financial step where we'll be able to put if we're employed. We can fill in all of our employer info, not required by default. The one thing that is required always is going to be that income amount, because we need that in order to be able to make that screening decision. So I'll go ahead and enter in a gross income amount. I'll come down here to the bottom, and I'll be able to add additional income as well. So if you have maybe applicants that have some sort of Social Security, some sort of disability pay, VA benefits, things like that, they can come in here and select that and have that be included for consideration. Let's save and continue there, and we'll go to the next step, which is going to be the people step. And under people is where your primaries or your applicants are going to be able to add any additional people that are going to be living with them in the apartment. If any people that they add are over 18, it's going to have them submit their own application or ask the primary to enter in the information for that person. So we have a couple options. Let's say that I am applying with a spouse, so I'll select that there's going to be one other person here with me. The system will ask if this person is 18 or older. We'll put yes, and then I'll be able to start adding the information for that person. Now, when we do so, you'll notice that we have down here at the bottom, and I'll get to that in just a second, we'll have the ability to either invite this person via email. If I enter in their email address, as soon as I finish my application as the primary, Entrada is going to send an invitation to the co-applicant and is going to have them fill in their portion of the application and tie the two together automatically. The other thing that we can do is, again, if I'm applying with my spouse and that person is there with me, I can just enter in this person's information myself, and I can click on the enter information button, and it's going to pull up like a mini application that the co-applicant can now enter in their information without having to create a separate login. So we can do it one of two ways. They have some options there. Just like we added this additional, occupant and a co-applicant, what we can do is I can come down here to the bottom as well, and I can add a guarantor in the exact same way. It'll be classified a little bit differently, but the options are the same. We add all of the information for that guarantor, and then we can invite the person via email, or we can add their information as well. Now for this one here, I'll set this back to 0. I won't add anybody else, and I won't add a guarantor. We'll click continue, and we'll go to the next step here just to wrap up this application. And we'll ask for emergency contact info here in this section. Now I don't have this information set to required, so I'm going to just skip it. And then we'll get to the second to last step, which is going to be the summary section. Now in the summary section, I think it's going to be a pretty helpful section for you guys on your end. You're going to get questions here and there concerning the application, I assume, where somebody is not going to be able to maybe get to the payment step. They're not sure what they're missing. They're getting quote unquote stuck on the application. If those questions ever come up, the first thing that I would do is I would have that person log into the app, go to the summary step, and check to see what might be missing. A lot of the times we're missing information. They forgot to add something, whatever that may be. We can go and look at these sections really quick. Anything that is incomplete is going to show a yellow triangle. Everything that is good is going to show a green little check mark here. If I had any yellow triangle showing up, I could click on that section, and any required fields that are missing info would be highlighted in red. I could click on the hyperlink. It'll take me to that section directly, and I can update all of my information. So just keep that in mind. If you ever get questions concerning the app, first thing I do is always go to the application summary. Now we'll be able to come back down to the bottom from here, and we can add some additional items here in this section. Now you'll notice I have a document uploads section that I have enabled. This isn't on by default, but you do have the ability to request some document uploads from those people that are applying to live at your property. Do you guys require, as part of the process, the leasing process, proof of income, pay stubs, things like that?
Yes.
Okay, so if you wanted to, this is something that we can start to ask for on the application. It's not necessarily a required field. We could make it required if we wanted to, but you have the ability to ask for those here on the application. And I have the generic names for these, but we could rename these labels and say upload copy of your most recent pay stub and things like that. So we have the ability to ask for these here, and this is going to accept all types of documents. We could do PDF, doc, docx, and we can do any sort of image upload as well if that's something that we wanted to do. Okay, now we'll come down to the policy document section, and I have some screening and rental criteria documents that I require my applicants to view. So I can click on the tab here and make them open up or download that PDF. We'll do that for both of these. And once I click on that button, I am now able to initial in those fields, and I'll come down to the bottom and I'll do a full signature. We can now save and continue, and we'll go to the last and final step on the application, which is going to be the payment step, but it looks like it's requiring something here for me. Let's see, my initials. J should be good. Let's try that one more time here. What is missing? Let's take a look. Policy viewed, policy viewed. For some reason, it's not liking those initials. Let's take a look. There we go. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add that then, and it'll take us to the last and final step. And this is where now they'll be able to submit any payments for any application fees, things like that. We'll give them a breakdown of all of the charges here on the right-hand side. For my test property, I charge a $25 application fee. I assume that you guys might have some additional fees, maybe an admin fee or something like that you guys charge, but we'll be able to see a breakdown of all of those charges here on the right-hand side. So we'll charge $25. That's what's due right now to process the application. I can come in here and I can add all of my information here and process this payment. So we'll do some test information that we can use here in this section. I'll come down to my billing address, and it's going to pull from the current address that I added during the application. And I can now come over to pay and finish to process this payment. You see this pay later button here. on my test account. Don't worry, this isn't enabled by default, so your prospects, your applicants won't be able to see this. And skip the payment step. All they'll see is pay and finish. Now I'll click pay and finish. And what this is going to do for us now is it's going to process the payment and it's going to update the status of this application. When that happens, because you guys are integrated with AMSI, you're going to see a couple different things. In Entrata, we're going to see the status of Mackenzie. It's going to update and it's going to put her at an application completed status. If you remember when we started the application, all it said was started. It's now application complete. We'll also process the payment and we'll send the payment over along with the update to the status of this application over to AMSI. So you'll see the status change over on that end automatically. And you'll get the email notification at the property email address that Tracy just set up, letting you know the application was completed and that an application payment was made. So you'll get these notifications in that email address. Be on the lookout for those as those come in, letting you know that this person, Mackenzie, has completed that application. Now, up to this point, as far as the guest card goes or the application goes, do you guys have any questions for me up to this specific point where we complete the application online as an applicant and submit our application payment?
No, we don't.
Okay, perfect. So you'll get those email notifications. And the next thing that we'll have to do is we'll need to come into Entrata and we'll need to process the screening for that specific person. Now, Tracy, I know you might be familiar with Resident Verify. Kirsten or Natasha, have you guys used the Resident Verify service before? No.
Can you hear the question?
Have any of you at the property used the Resident Verify screening service before through Entrata?
I haven't.
No. Okay. So that's what we're going to do next with as far as the leasing process goes. At this point, we have the application completed within Entrata, which is what we need. We're now able to process the screening for that person, and we can do it one of two ways. When I pull up Mackenzie, if I pull up her profile here, you'll notice that we have the ability to directly from the profile in the lead timeline. If you remember, we were talking about this timeline that lets you know what we need to be doing. In the what's next section, I can process the screening directly from the profile. In Entrata though, from the dashboard, we consolidate this information and make it a little bit easier so that you can go straight to one section and know what it is that we need to process at any point in time. So if I go to the dashboard, under the approval section, in this application section, we'll see all of these completed apps, and you'll notice Mackenzie is listed in this section. I now have the ability under the what's next column to click on this down arrow and process the screening for her. Now, that's going to bring up this pop-up window. It's going to allow me to select Mackenzie. And in this drop-down, we'll be able to select the package type for this person. Now, these package types tell the system or tell Entrata what it is, what type of screening we're going to be doing. If I'm doing a leaseholder screening, it's going to do a credit and criminal. If I have maybe an international applicant or a student applicant, we can go ahead and select that package type, and it's going to do a criminal only. Now, generally though, we would do the leaseholder type. So we're going to process the screening, and we're going to send that information over to Resident Verify. They're going to process the screening, and they're going to kick back the recommendation to us here at, back into Entrata. We'll be able to see that here in this section. The processing time is usually, I've seen it anywhere from instant to just a couple of minutes to come back. Now, we'll go ahead after it's done sending the info. This window is going to close out. We'll give it just a second here, and let's take a look. Let me try that one more time. might be an issue with my test account and the connection that I've set up with Resident Verify. Okay, let me go ahead and we'll send that screening over. It's going to make Mackenzie fall off of the dashboard as far as his applications tab goes. And once Resident Verify is able to process the screening and send us back the recommendation, she's going to pop back up in this section. So she'll go away when we process the screening. If the screening is delayed for any reason, she won't show up until the recommendation comes back. Once the recommendation comes back, though, you'll be able to see that lead again in this section. And under screening results, we'll be able to see what came back from Resident Verify. So Terry here, somebody that we screened previously, came back with a recommendation of pass. I can now come over here to the right-hand side and I can click review, and we can review the results for this person. Now, we'll be able to see some information here in this section, things like income or combined income if there were multiple applicants on the application, what their proposed rent is going to be, and then the rent to income. We'll go ahead and be able to see additional details down here at the bottom. And what we'll be able to do is if we have the proper permissions, we can see things like the credit report. If there's any criminal information, we can see that record as well. Now, generally not everybody has access to see that info, but if you do, you can click on these hyperlinks and follow the instructions to see that information. Tracy, at the property, is it going to be just the property manager that has permissions to finalize the screening or the approval for an application?
Yes.
Okay. So the property manager will be able to come in here and they can see the screening decision that came back. So of course, for Terry here, it came back as passed because she met all of the criteria that have been set for my apartment community. The dropdown is going to automatically pre-fill with the screening decision. We can add any additional notes if we need to. And then pretty simple, we're just going to come down to the bottom right and we're going to approve this applicant. Now, one other question for you, Tracy. Is the property manager? I know they're making the final approval. Are they going to be able to override the decision that comes back from Resident Verify?
Yes, the property manager, she's actually on the call too, Ada. Yes, she will be able to.
Okay, Ada will be able to. Okay, so if that's something that we're gonna be able to do, Ada, then what we'll do then is, let's say Terry came back as pass. Not that you would necessarily fail her, right, if she came back with the recommendation of pass, but for whatever reason, if we need to change this screening decision in this drop down, I have the ability to change it from approve to approve with conditions, or I can deny that applicant. Approve and deny, pretty straightforward. If I approve the application, it's going to go ahead and kick the status to an application approved from application completed. We'll be able to generate a lease and kind of continue with the process. There's some additional steps with approve with conditions and deny applicants that we need to go over. So let's say I come in here and I deny this applicant instead of approving the application. What it's going to do is it's going to require me to add any additional notes as to why we're denying this person. So we'll just do a quick note here. We'll say that the criminal and credit check came back failed. Maybe she had a felony or something. And then we'll come down to this reason section and we'll be able to select the reason that we're denying it. Now, when we come down to the bottom and we deny this applicant, what's going to happen is as soon as I click that button, we're going to send the adverse action letter to that applicant via email. And at that point, they're going to get all of the information as to why they were denied by the property. So we can deny the applicant and we'll immediately let you know that the adverse action letter was emailed. Again, that goes off automatically as soon as you make the screening decision to deny. Keep that in mind. If we want to print the letter, maybe keep it in a file or just for our records, we can see that here in this section. And this is going to give you an idea of what that letter is going to look like. So it'll be the adverse action letter. We'll include the reasons as to why that person was denied. And then if they have any additional questions concerning that screening decision, we include our contact info on there. They can reach out to us at Resident Verify, and we'll be able to talk to them and give them some additional information, maybe look at what records were used, where we pulled the credit check from to make that screening decision. So they'll have some options here. They can take a look at that and give us a call if they need to. I would redirect them to Resident Verify and give them that information, or have them look at the adverse action letter. Now, just to recap, that adverse action letter goes out automatically. You can't bypass it. If you don't print it off now, it's okay. It's always going to be attached to the lead profile within Entrada. You can always go into the document section, and we'll be able to see that document attached to her profile. Now, if we open up, we were working with Terry here. Let's open up Terry's profile. Let me take a look here. I'm going to go back to the lead section and we'll take a look at Terry. You'll notice now that the application for Terry has been canceled out because the screening was denied. Or the application was denied. So you'll be able to see that information here in this section. You can always come back and open up her profile, and we'll be able to see all of that information here related to that lead in the activity log. We can see that information here in the documents, and this is what I was talking about. If we don't print the adverse action letter right off the bat, we can always come back later and access that information. Now, the approval and the denial are pretty straightforward. The one that requires some additional steps is going to be the screening decision to approve with conditions. Now, approving with conditions is going to require some additional steps on your end. Primarily, it's just going to include applying the condition once the condition has been set. So let's do a quick here. I'm going to actually process the screening here for somebody else and see if it's still giving me that problem. Let me take a look here. Process screening. We'll do this guy here. Process that. Let's go back to, well, you know what? Let's try Mackenzie one more time. Might give me another timeout. Let me go ahead and pull up a second test account. I want to show you one other screening decision option that we can make, and that's going to be approve with conditions. Let me see if I have another example that we could go off of here. So under the approvals, applications, it looks like they've completed them all. Let me just make some quick updates here to this profile, and we'll see if we can process the application for this person. Let's see what information is missing for Dallas, and I'll take a quick look. Okay, so Dallas Johnson, we will update the application really quick, and we're missing current address info for that person. So let's go ahead and update that. Save and close. Continue. Okay. All right, so I'll close out of that profile. Let's try to screen that one more time, and let's see if we can get a screening result back here. He doesn't have a social. Okay. Let's process it from the profile itself. We'll just process the screening, and we'll see if we can kick that over to Resident Verify. It might give me the timeout error again. I apologize. There might be an issue here with my test account with the connection, but we'll take a look. Okay, perfect. So it did send the information over. Let's take a look at that then, and you'll notice if we send over the information, if we send the screening over, it might not come back automatically. We'll have to wait on Resident Verify to check any additional information. And that's usually going to occur if there are issues with, if there's maybe an extensive criminal record that comes back, things like that. At that point, we have somebody at Resident Verify check manually to make sure that the information that we're sending back is going to be correct. If we're still waiting on those results, we can always check the status of the screening and see if there's been an update made on Resident Verify's end so that we can get that screening recommendation back here for this person. So it looks like it's still in progress. There hasn't been anything that has come back at this point in time. Now, let me go ahead and see if we can get, let me try to screen one other person here to see if we can get something come back a little bit quicker. And we'll take a look at approving with conditions here. Let me see this person. We don't want to do the renewal. We'll do Nick. Another renewal, let's see. And Mackenzie just keeps timing out. Okay, let me go ahead and I need to pull up an example here, a better example for approving with conditions. I'll show you that here in just a sec. For now though, why don't we continue with the next step in the process, and I'll come back to approving with conditions in just a couple of minutes. Now, we've approved an application and we've denied an application. Once that person is approved, what we're going to be able to do with an Entrata at that point is we'll be able to generate a lease document for that person. So again, we need to have the status of that person be application approved. Once they're at an application approved status, we'll be able to see them under this applicants tab under the generate leases section. So anybody that's been approved so far at the property is going to show up in this tab. I can always search for them directly in the quick search if I know who it is that I'm going to generate this document for and generate the lease from within the profile. But on the dashboard, it's going to be just a little bit more consolidated for us. So here's the applicants tab, generate leases. I have 2 people for this property that I am ready to generate a lease document for. So we made the screening decision, they were approved. I can come over to the right-hand side here. We'll generate the e-sign lease, and we'll be able to select that Blue Moon lease from this dropdown. You guys, all of the properties, Tracy, use the Blue Moon lease documents. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we'll select the Blue Moon document, and it's going to populate a couple of fields here for us. If I look at the Blue Moon addenda, we'll be able to select or see all of the documents that are automatically included in that packet. Generally, you should already see things selected in this section that by default is included in your lease packet. I don't have any of those preset for me, so I actually have to come in here and select the apartment lease form. But just keep that in mind when you generate the document. If there's something that you don't need, you can always deselect it and change that. Now I'm going to select the lease form. We'll see some Blue Moon click balance information on the right hand side. We'll continue, and it's going to allow me to review those merge fields here within the system. Now we're going to pull in information from the application, from the information that is provided by the applicant, or information that we pull in from Entrata as far as pricing goes. And we're going to automatically populate information in a lot of these fields. So what we want is we want to go in and make sure that we're reviewing to make sure that the information that is being populated is correct. So we'll want to go through all of these fields to make sure that that information is good. Now, once we've reviewed these merge fields, what I recommend that you do is you preview the lease document. We'll preview that document, and we'll see a sample with all of the populated merge fields. And we'll be able to see what information is going to be pre-populated in that document there. So we'll go ahead and see the sample here. We'll be able to review again the document to make sure that everything looks good. And once we've reviewed that document, we can now come back into the Entrata window. We'll acknowledge that we reviewed the merge fields and looked at a sample of the lease that will be generated. And then we'll generate that lease document. So for Mackenzie James, at this point, now that we generate the lease, at that point, that generating that document costs us clicks through Blue Moon. It's only once we hit that last and final button there, though. So we'll generate the document, and we'll have the option to send an invitation to this person. Give it just a second here. Apologize, my internet is running a little bit slow. Okay, let me take a look one more time. Well, I apologize. My test database does not want to cooperate today. So what we would do here is once we generate that document, we're able to send the invite to this person, and we will be able to have them log into the prospect portal and sign their lease document. Let me try the other one for Joe here and see if that one works a little bit better. For some reason, certain examples don't want to go through. Let me take a look. Okay, let me try this here one more time. We'll do just a regular lease packet, not through Blue Moon. We'll see if that works a little bit better. Okay, perfect. So we'll generate the lease document, and you'll see this window come up letting you know that the lease was successfully generated. We're going to send the lease invitation, and Joe is going to be cleared from the dashboard, and he's going to get an email notification letting him know that he can go online and he can generate his lease or sign his lease at this point in time. You'll notice that the status of this person will change from application approved to lease started. We'll pretend that we, as Joe, we got the email notification. We're going to log into the prospect portal, and we'll now be able to sign this lease document. So when we log in, we're going to see the exact same thing here. This is the prospect view. We'll review and sign the lease, and we'll be able to first agree to the terms and conditions to conduct this online. So we'll say yes, and we'll begin the online lease. We'll generate the document for that applicant. They'll be able to see the entire lease document here in this section. They can review the document entirely, and once they've reviewed it, they can come down to the bottom and provide a signature. So we'll do a full signature. We'll click here to sign. We'll regenerate that document for the applicant so that they can see that their signature is located on all of these pages. But once we're ready and we've reviewed, we can just exit the lease document. So at this point, what's going to happen is as soon as that person is done signing their lease document, you'll get an email notification letting you know that the lease has been signed by the applicant. And you can now come into Entrata, and we'll be able to see that that lease in the approvals tab on the dashboard in order for us to be able to countersign and approve that lease if we're the property manager. Now, If I were to open up Joe real quick here, let me just pull up his profile. I want to show you the change in his status. He went from lease started to lease completed once he signs his lease document. So just kind of keep in mind here, the status changes. If we open up the profile directly, while we can go through the dashboard, we can also come into the lead itself and click on the approve lease button to countersign and approve the lease itself. So you have some options there. Now we'll go into the dashboard just to show you that way, but I can go into the approvals, and if I go to e-sign documents, we'll be able to see the lease packets. And that's just going to be everybody that's at least completed that has signed their lease is going to show up in this section. And you'll notice we have Joe Smith here listed for us. Under what's next, we're going to approve the lease. We'll see a pop-up window come up, and we're going to regenerate that document for you with all of the merge fields pulled in. You'll be able to see the resident signature. And if everything looks good, I can acknowledge that I reviewed the generated lease document and will be able to countersign that lease here. For those of you that have an Entrata account, I'm logged in as an administrator, so it doesn't pre-populate a name for me, but you would see your name pre-populate in this section. Once we're good though, we'll click here to sign. And at that point, the lease document will now show both signatures. We'll be able to see those here on the document. I can print a copy or I can save a copy for my records if I want to. If you don't do that now at this point in time, you can always come back to the resident profile and access that document if you need to. As soon as we're done though, we're going to see Joe taken off of the dashboard. If we pull up his profile now, you will see that Joe is now listed as a future resident. So we'll update AMSI. We'll pull in a future resident profile for Joe, and he is now going to be ready to be moved in eSite. So you'll be able to perform the move-in on that end. The leasing process is completed at this point in time within Entrata. There's no additional steps that you need to complete as far as the leasing process goes. If I pull up his profile, we can go into the Documents tab, and you'll be able to see the lease document that now is signed in this section. So you don't necessarily have to download or print it. As soon as you countersign, you can always come back and see that information within the resident profile. Now, again, at this point he's done. What we want to see is that future status for that person. So Joe's a future resident and he's good. At this point, I would recommend, and you're going to have to go into AMSI and then continue with the move-in and the resident management side on that end. As far as generating the lease document, what the prospect sees when they sign that document, and how to countersign the lease, do you guys have any questions for me concerning that specific process?
No.
No?
Oh, I do have a question though. We print our applications out if they don't fill them out in-house and put them in a file. How do I go in there and print an application once it's already been completed in Entrata?
Totally. So if you ever need to access documents for anybody, you can always, if you see them, for example, here on the dashboard, or if you search for them here in this section, we can just pull up their profile and everything is going to be located in the documents section for you. So I can come in here and I can print off the lease, I can print off the application, whatever I need.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. So as far as the leasing process goes, that's what I had for you as far as that specific portion. Let me go back to the approvals and let me see if my screening has come back for my my person so that I could show you approving somebody with conditions, and it doesn't look like anybody has come back yet. Okay, let me try this one more time. I just want to show you that last step there before I let you guys go, and let's update some information here. You know what, let me grab a new applicant. Let's try Mackenzie one more time. We'll process the screening for her. think this is going to keep timing out here. I might, oh, it actually worked. Let's see. Mackenzie. Let's try to pull up her profile here and see if it's still just in progress. Let me take a look. All right, it's going to give me an error. I think it's the same issue with that timeout. Now, what I can do is, I apologize for that, guys. My test database is being kind of funny. What we'll do is I can send some additional instructions or maybe record once I can get this working, just a quick little video with how to approve somebody with conditions. And I can share that with everybody that's on this call today so that you can at least see how that process is done. Very similar to approving and denying somebody. There's just an additional step that you guys need to complete. But I can record that and I can send that over. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
All righty, guys. If you guys have any additional questions concerning anything that we talked about, please let me know. We have some time and I can stick around for questions. If not, unless Tracy has anything else for you guys, that should be it here on my end for this first session.
I think we're good on this end. Tracy, do you have anything for us?
No, we're good so far.
All righty. We will meet back up on Friday morning, same time. And if anything, once I get an example that's up and running, I might just start that Friday session with just the steps on how to approve somebody with conditions. So we might just even pick up on Friday from there, and then we'll start with all the resident stuff, the resident portal and things like that. So I appreciate you guys jumping on, and I will see you again on Friday morning.
Jill, thank you so much for your time, okay?
You're welcome, Tracy. You guys have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.